Hello again. Super delighted am I to have you join me on yet another installment, another episode, another edition of The Bookshelf, coming to you live on Western Spring Television. My name is DAMILOLA RAPHAEL. I'm your host right here on the platform where we look at everything that relates to book and everyone who has a relationship with it. We're in a season in our lives where we begin to count the days, like that good book says, right? To number the days. So we begin to number the days. And there's this video that kind of trended at a point. Pressure, wow. Okay, so many people seem to be under pressure. And today, we're going to be doing something very interesting. And not just interesting because for the sake of the word interesting, but because it's going to be life-changing. We're going to be doing a book review. And the book is about time. Very beautiful book written by DAMILOLA RAPHAEL. And it's titled The Reality of Time. The Reality of Time. It's written by DAMILOLA. So permit me to scan through some of the different chapters. It has 14 in all, 14 chapters in all. So I'm just going to be starting with chapter 1. I'm not going to be reading the whole book. Remember that it's a book review, and I'm not going to be reading the whole chapter, so I don't take the source, as it were, out of it. So you can always go get your own copy of that book right here by DAMILOLA, The Reality of Time. All right, it has a very beautiful appreciation page, acknowledgement page. You have the introduction and all what have you, but table of content as well. But let's just go straight to chapter 1. One of the beautiful things I like about this book is the fact that for every chapter, there is kind of like a nugget, at the front, and then you get to open, to the chapter to see what the chapter is about, and then you can move on to read. All right, so I've done justice to looking at some parts we'll be reviewing together. We should prompt you to own the book. Remember, when we have told ourselves one of the reasons we own books is not just so that we can decorate our shelves and let people know that, yes, we have owned this book, but because books are timeless materials. You can always go back to refer to them, make references, remind yourself again, and of course, other people can get inspired by what you have on, not just on your shelf, but also on your mind. So let's start with chapter 1. But I'm going to be looking at that first nugget right there. It says, or it reads, and I quote, "If I hold myself back with the grief, disappointment, or little setbacks of the past, I definitely would not enjoy the present or even have a great future to look forward to." So chapter 1 is talking about the understanding of time. Understanding of time. It says, what is time? Time can have different meanings to different people. It all depends on the perception of the individual. To begin with, it is pertinent to understand the fact that time existed before creation. Time is still in use, and time would continue to be even until the end of age. Time is structured into 3 phases: the past, the present, and the future. And it is measured in events, which can be connected through all 3 stages, that is, from the past through the present into the future and the intervals between them. Our progress in life, as recorded in our growth and development scorecard, are oftentimes measured by the different achievements we have accomplished at various points in our lives. Everything cannot come to us at once. Life is often in stages, and we only progress to the next stage once we have been scored well in our scorecard. This is what brings about orderliness in our lives. All right, as I looked closely, that's the last paragraph there on page 3. As I looked closely at the clock one day, one of the other beautiful things is the fact that it was written in the first person. Yes, it's written in the first person. So it's more like you now, seeing yourself in this material. As I looked closely at the clock one day, I noticed how the second The second hand moved continuously from where it started from so as to strike the minute hand to move forward. And this went on to affect the hour hand. I learned that as each hand of the clock moves to the next, time is actually moving forward, and this can be explained in the ever-moving process of day and night. And I'm going to be reading the last paragraph now in that first chapter. It reads thus, that's on page 7. For the fact that you don't see time isn't a proof that it does not exist. Time really exists and controls almost every activity. We are like seeds planted in the earth. The day a seed is planted in the soil, the time starts counting. Same applies to us as individuals. Our time started counting the day we were born into this world. All right. So as we proceed, as we make progress with our book review, I'm going to be, telling us some of the very fun things I really like about this book. So I've talked about how that it was written in the first person. You have some wisdom nuggets just before you open to the chapter to know what topic the chapter is going to be exposing us to. And we have our questions for thoughts as well. We have the questions for thoughts, and there are even lines you should put your answers right there. And if you're thinking someone else may need that material, why not just put it in your diary, but make sure that you always refer to it. You can write it in pencil and not in ink, okay? But however it is you want, make sure that you attempt the questions. This is to not just to check, okay, so did you really memorize everything, but how are you going to be practicing it? How are you going to be putting to work the experiential part of your learning? That's one. So there are questions for thought right there. So we move over to chapter 2 now. Are you ready? There will never be any time except the one you create. There will never be any time except the one you create. And chapter 2 asks a question: is there really no time? Quoting the author now, or just reading along. When I was young, whenever my uncles come visiting, my parents would ask why he doesn't call or send messages home. And his response was always, I don't have time. I equally hear some friends and relations make the same statements in reaction to why they don't care to visit their families or place a call just to say hi. Many more of this kind of reactions and responses I often hear, and this leads to my question: is there actually no time, as people claim? As I grew older, I began to understand one thing: people willingly give their time in exchange for, and that's value. In fact, it's in bold letters, value. Now he gave us some ideas. Moving on to page 13. What should we create time for? So I'm just going to be highlighting as some of the bullet points here. As I said, when you get the material, you'll be able to read through for yourself in detail. What should we create time for? Self-awareness. Number 2, self-development, creativity, health, balance, healthy relationships, and an active social life. Those are some of the bullet points right there. There are other questions for thought. And for chapter 3, the bullet points there: stop allowing frivolities, worries, anxieties, insecurities steal the precious time you could use to achieve productive things. I'm going to take that again. The wisdom nugget: stop allowing frivolities, worries, anxieties, insecurities steal the precious time you could use to achieve productive things. And chapter 3 is talking about the time that people waste. But I'm not going to be dwelling on that. You should go look at it. What are the thieves of time? And also make sure to attempt the question. So let's look at the wisdom nugget before we open to chapter 4. If the lessons of the past are ignored and no one is willing to ask a question, this will result in generational gap, which can cause delay, thereby slowing down progress. Someone told me some years back that if one doesn't gain the right knowledge from the past history, there's a way of repeating itself. Okay, so chapter 4, why is it important to ask questions? Chinese proverb here is, he says, he who asks a question is a fool for 5 minutes. He who does not ask a question remains a fool forever. Now, apart from the fact that asking questions saves your time, it gives you better understanding of issues and also helps to guide against mistakes. Mistakes made the first few times are pardoned, but because it is assumed you do not know, I'm going to take that again. Mistakes made the first few times are pardoned because it is assumed you do not know. But when it becomes a repetitive act, because you refuse to ask questions, it amounts to a waste of time and a waste of energy. I am not saying mistakes are bad. Of course, you can learn from it. But the one that you can avoid is far better in order to achieve worthwhile progress. We could actually avoid mistakes if we were willing to ask reasonable questions and be better informed from those who are well experienced in such areas. Ask questions. Remember that Chinese proverb, you're only going to be a fool for 5 minutes. It's better to be that than to be a fool forever. All right, let's move on. The last paragraph in that chapter 4 says, if the lessons of the past are ignored and no one is willing to ask a question, this will result in a generational gap which can cause delay, thereby slowing down the progress. As Robert A. Heinlein rightly said, a generation which ignores history has no past and no future. So we move on to chapter 5 now. Okay, the wisdom nugget there. Whatever worked yesterday might not be applicable for today's reality. And that's about, the topic there is how time flies. Okay, so maybe we should also ask, does time really fly? Okay, he asked here, how do you know that time flies? Time flies as we progress in life. Time flies as growth and development occurs in our lives as well as in our environment. Okay, so I want to read this story. I remember on 19 September 2009, my family and I relocated to a state in the western part of Nigeria. On that same day, after treating ourselves to some great orange fruits, we threw one particular seed from the fruit on the ground in one part of the compound and ignored it. After some time, we discovered an orange tree had grown right while we threw the seed. Although we did not notice, but the seed had gone through its formation stages and an orange tree had sprouted. Sam Levinson says, don't watch the clock, do what it does. Keep going. Keep going. And as I am here, I have a clock in front of me. And as it is moving, I'm not stagnant either. And hey, don't find yourself on a rocking chair. Move, like really, really move. All right? Good. So let's see, what's the wisdom nugget for chapter 6? Why people remain who or where they are is simply because they aren't willing to accept that time is the most essential and the only bedrock of every achievement in life. Equality of time. There's 24 hours equals 1 day. And says it's quite amazing to know that it is the same time that's allotted to the rich that is also made available to the poor. So how come some are rich and some are poor? You know, some time ago, as a much younger adult, you hear that prayer from some people, and we also started saying it, give me more time. Just give me 48 hours. Maybe what you really need is not more time. Why people remain who or where they are is simply because they aren't willing to accept that time is the most essential and the only bedrock of every achievement in life. He says, find out what is important to you and schedule your time around it. Find out what is important to you and schedule your time around it. I was actually reading something from This Day Style. It's an online magazine that comes up every week from This Day, online newspaper, the This Day media outlet generally. And I was reading about how to balance your work, you know, social life, how to really, really balance it and just be able to maximize everything you have right there. And here we have it, you know, compiled as a compilation in a book. And this brings to mind the fact that you can really put up a whole lot of idea. Remember when we talk about what can you write when we're doing ebooks? This is it. It's here. It's here. Someone talking about time. Imagine that experience of orange seed, and you're wondering you don't have things to put down. No way. No way. You do have stuff to put down. Put it down anyhow. And then, of course, just get someone who's going to help you edit properly and build it up. We've had many authors who actually didn't write the book themselves. They had the story. Ben Carson is an example. He had the story in gifted hands, and then he had to get someone who is a professional to put it out. We also have The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. Yeah, he had the story. And I mean, an author came in and said, okay, let's put it into writing. And it was not just put into writing. We have a film on that particular material. And of course, other different topics, even centered around William Kwakwamba on that one. So you don't have an excuse. So remember this year we are writing. Write a journal. Just write. It may be your book that's going to be saving the world in the next how many years when a particular information will be needed. And Anne Frank's diary, remember that to be your diary that will be used to give accurate information on the details of what had transpired in time past. So let's see chapter 7. Wow, we've gotten to chapter 7. Amazing. What's the wisdom nugget? The longer you stay in a season, the more you should allow changes to take place so as to stretch your imagination and welcome new ideas. Chapter 7, time in a season. Time within the season, what are they used for? First, preparation. It says, you want to become an orator, you have to learn to overcome stage fright and get involved in your speeches to be able to take others along. Anything worth doing at all is worth training for. How beautiful that is when you have to read again and know, amen, I need to do this. I mean, you talk to yourself, babe, you should do this. Guy, go and get it done. Okay? Then second up on the wrong after preparation is planning. A goal without a plan is just a wish. A goal without a plan is just a wish. So go ahead and make plans. Then let's see, understanding your next role in the unveiling season and realization. And of course, he talked about seasonal change. You should just read that up on your own. And let me wrap up with this one here. How long does a season lapse? You are actually the one that determines how long it will take for your seasons to evolve. As soon as you are fully prepared for the next unveiling season, understanding your next role, when you have come to the realization of yourself, it's a good sign that you're ready for the next season. When you don't live in deprivation or anguish of your last season, you're actually leaving the past behind. As long as you're still holding on to your past, it's impossible to move on to the next phase. So you're not yet prepared for the next season. At different points in the book, talked about how that, when you want to fly, you should travel light, right? You don't want to fly with all that weight so it doesn't reduce your pace, reduce your momentum, reduce your speed as well. So travel light. Don't hold the errors, the guilt, the pain of the past. Let it rather be what would catapult you. Let it be your springboard to the next and higher level. You're going to pick the lessons from it. You're going to query why you made some of those errors, but you're not going to keep querying it by just staying in place. Remember, we said to not use a rocking chair. Do what the clock does, right? Keep moving. Okay? So there are questions for thoughts right there as well. Nothing whatsoever could be achieved except at its own right time. That's the wisdom nugget for chapter 8, which is talking about right timing. But I'm going to be leaving you to do justice. So I'm reading up on that for yourself. So let's see the wisdom nugget for chapter 9. Whoop, whoop. Failure to do something yesterday may be why you're where you are today. And if you fail to do something today, you might be where you don't like to be tomorrow. Chapter 9 talks about letting go of the past and facing the future. I mentioned that earlier on, but at different points in the book, you're going to be meeting that. So let's just go to chapter 10 I didn't plan to review chapter 9. I only plan to mention it. What's the wisdom nugget? If you approach life in a gradual way, there is a tendency that you understand the principle of building success and how to have a sustainable life, because nothing good is ever built suddenly. It doesn't just happen. Somebody said just hammer, you just blow, you just arrive. Nothing just arrives. It takes a process. It takes a process, all right? So allow yourself grow. I used to have this picture on my device some time ago, and whenever the screen pops up, I just get to see it. It says, watch yourself grow. And there were different, pots, of plants. Okay, so 3 days, 1 week, watch yourself grow. I still remember that. I mean, the picture is stuck now in my head. I still remember that. Watch yourself grow. And chapter 10, be gradual. Precepts, that good book talks about precepts being upon precepts, line being upon line, here a little, there a little. So be gradual. Take it one step at a time. That fine song, right, says, no need to rush. Was that Jordan Parks? I listen to good music too. Okay, and chapter 11, I'm not planning to review that either. The moment you make up your mind to enjoy every moment of your life, every part of you will be in alignment with your thought process, and they will begin to work together to produce results. Life as moments. We've talked about life in season, right? The life as moments. And then chapter 12, there is no reversal in the number of ages. It's always an arithmetic progression. This shouldn't get you scared. Arithmetic progression or arithmetic sequence, but the difference between the consecutive days is constant. Just imagine I was still telling somebody K is constant this morning. Okay. And chapter 12 deals with the topic, can aging be reversed? Let's look at chapter 13. What do we have right there on chapter 13? The wisdom nugget. When you do want to begin what you're supposed to do in life in order to achieve the equivalent of your efforts, and how long you will enjoy them before every activity of your life will be suspended. And chapter 13 is all about breaking it down. And I get to wrap up here with chapter 14, the conclusion. In a time like this, somebody said, for such a time as this, it's never a new thing when people experience setbacks at one time or the other. The more you're in this period, the stronger you become when you come out of it. And remember, when you are helped out of this and you recover, strengthen your brethren. Here is where I get to call it a wraps on the bookshelf for today. I'll see you some other time. But remember, write it anyhow. Okay, start today, right? Start now. Start this minute. Just start. You'll be amazed at how far you'll go before the year runs out. Sincere appreciation to Jide Agbola for writing The Reality of Time. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Keep writing and keep believing. My name is DAMILOLA RAPHAEL, and I'm saying goodbye and God bless.